Test, test. Hello. There we are. He's barely breathing, huh? Alright. This is a little better. I don't want you to hear me breathing. Alright. Well, greetings, greetings. How's everybody doing tonight? Well, we've got a lot to cover tonight. And so, shoot. Let me see here. If you're new, welcome. Anybody here first time? So, haven't edited up this screen yet, but there is a change, just a little security thing on the password for the free Pitchfork class. The first part remains the same. The last part, instead of 17, it's 2017 now. So take notes accordingly. If you're new, you want to take a screenshot of this screen. Sometime later tonight after the session, you want to go and join the Facebook group iMarkets Live Scans, Forks, and Fibos, carrying the same name as this channel. For IML members, I give away a free Pitchfork class. That is the URL to register for the free Pitchfork class. After you registered, you will be asked for a user ID and password that is not the same as your name and email as is requested to register for the course. This will be sent to you after you register. The second page will come up and it'll ask you to register to enter the username and the password, and there it is. So take a screenshot of that. And we're good to go. So tonight I want to cover a few things. Let me see if I want to get the order of them somewhat okay. All right, first thing. I'm going to say get tough. So here's the deal on that. If everybody could learn how to trade, if the character set to learn how to trade was simple and available for everybody, then everybody would be successful traders. It's only going to take a small percentage of you that's actually going to become successful. And that's going to require a strong character. As I've said before, you're going to have to be part entrepreneur. You're going to have to be part MacGyver. You're going to have to persist without exception. You're going to have to understand math. You're going to have to do consistent self-development. You're going to have big dreams and goals. To name a few of the characteristics. So I'm not, let me say that again, I am not going to baby anybody that wants to become a Forex trader. I will not be giving out participation trophies. Now, if that's, oh, he's so mean, then you're more than welcome to go to another channel. I'm here to create master traders. And if that's not what you want to be, if you're more worried about your little self-esteem getting slapped around once in a while, then you better go to another channel. I'm not mean, I'm not vicious, but I'm also honest. I'm not going to candy coat the truth. You're going to have to toughen up, Buttercup, if you want to make it as a Forex trader. And that means work, effort, repetition, following instructions, being coachable, on top of everything else I've already mentioned. I don't care what the other channels and the other educators do. I do in the sense that in a bigger scheme of things, we all represent IML, and as long as, in my opinion, we have everybody's best interest, and that is making you a successful trader, how we go about it may be different. But if you don't want to hear the truth, if you want me to tell you a bunch of falsehoods so you feel good on this journey of yours, if you want to waste your money because you don't want to hear the truth, then I suggest you go to another channel. All right. We have a group. We have a Facebook group. And it is our community. And as such, that's not my desire to be fancy. That's my cursor just dragging the tool across the page. We have to watch out here. We have admins in this group. Now, unlike admins in just a normal group where they, police spam and stuff like that, they are also considered coaches. They're not an IML coach or an IML educator, but they may be assistant coaches in my realm of what I do. Most of them have been with me at least a minimum of a year, some of them 3-4 years. So we have admin coaches in the room around the globe, volunteering. So I expect everybody to be courteous to them, pleasant to them, respectful of them. We also have traders who have been here with me, since day one, but it's only, 2.5, 3 months, 3 months, 2.5 months, who are getting it. Well enough to help. Now, here's where we have some issues. Just because somebody asks a question doesn't mean you have to try and provide an answer. That's not being helpful if you give them the wrong answer. Especially when 200 people come and read it after you gave them the wrong answer and then are about their way trading and not paying attention in the group. Some of you are providing help because it helps satisfy your ego. You're being seen. Sometimes that's a compensation for you not doing well yourself right now. And so inwardly you're looking for recognition, and you get that by helping others, at least you think you do. So I'm going to say this as diplomatically and pleasantly as I can. If you don't know the material inside out, if you haven't already taken 50 trades on something that exercises that particular question, do not bother answering. That is not helpful to provide the wrong answer. Yo, Malmerilk, whatever it is. How many sessions have you been into in here? Time delay must be exceptionally long tonight because, you know, you've been in here 12 sessions and you think my emphasis is on technicals? You're in the wrong group, my friend. And if you don't want to participate in our community, when I'm talking about the rules for our community and how our community functions, again, go be in another group where when they start the first minute they're talking technicals. The head game is going to be 95% of your success or failure. And if I have people giving you wrong information in here, your head game isn't going to be right. Trust me. So I'm sorry I'm not on the technicals the first minute I start the session. But I am so little about the technicals. The technicals got to be there. But I'm so little about it. I'm all about the head game. Anybody else want to ask me when I'm going to get to the pitchfork stuff? Man, boom, done invoked the grizzly right from the start. Yeah, that's a good point, Jerry. So I'm just asking some of you to be aware. Please don't answer unless you're really versed in the subject. And I'm not talking about what you think you saw in the video or what you thought you heard me say 4 sessions ago. I'm talking about the questions asked. It's about something technical and you're giving an answer, but you haven't done but 5 trades so far and posted them. We have admins. Now, as I said last week or Monday, if you ask a question, and it doesn't get answered, because everybody's now a little gun shy. After 24 hours, you can tag me to it, and either I or one of the admins will get to it. But I'd rather you be a little late in getting an answer than you are to get wrong answers. All right, let's move on. So, one of the things I want to talk about is the size of the scans. And that's going to bring us to an important point. Yeah. Let's talk about an indicator like RSI. If you'll notice, an indicator like RSI operates on a scale. And that scale goes from 0 to 100. RSI, along with things like stochastics, are what is known as relative indicators. Relative indicators mean they do not consider scale. Oh my Lord. I'm having issues with my ink to go today. Yeah. I think it was started the other day even. But I went through about 5 coaching sessions without any problems, and now it's starting up again in here. They do not consider scale. Who wants to take a guess at what that means? Relative indicators do not consider scale. What does that mean? No, I'm plugged in with this mouse tonight. No? What does it mean they don't consider scale? No? It's not about lag, it's not about wicks. Yeah, so Todd has it there. If I have a channel this could be on the same time period chart because I'm on RSI on one chart. So let's just, for grins, say that we're on a 15-minute chart. I very well may have a channel that looks like this. Now, my RSI for that channel is going to look like this. And it will match up, if I drew it right, it will match up in the sense that when price gets to the top of the channel, RSI is going to sense it's overbought. And when price gets to the bottom of the channel, RSI is going to sense it's oversold. That's why it's called a relative indicator. Everything's relative. Guess what? If I have a channel that looks like this, same 15-minute chart. Oops, let's stay consistent. Wow, come on, tool. And in that channel, price does this. And of course, it'll never do it so nice and graphically, but I think you get the point. Guess what my RSI is going to look like? Well, maybe not that bad. Could be. And it means the same thing. When price got up here, it was overbought. When price got down here, it was oversold. When price got up here, it had been overbought, and so it reverses. So it doesn't matter the size of the wow. I have to excuse that. I didn't draw it. It doesn't matter the size of the channel. If this channel is 15 pips wide, and this one is 85 pips wide, the top is the top and the bottom is the bottom, and that's what RSI is going to show you because it's a relative channel. The top has no meaning to it other than it's the top of the channel. There's no price level, there's nothing magic about it. It means it's the top. And the bottom means it's the bottom. So it's important to understand that. Because if you're got two adjoining channels, they may end up being different sizes at different times. They're not always going to be the same size. But the top is going to be the top and the bottom is going to be the bottom as measured by RSI in terms of overbought and oversold. Relative indicator. 0 to 100. 100 being the top and 0 being the very bottom. And most of the time it's somewhere in between. That 70 and 30 are kind of good indicator levels. There's others depending on what you're doing, but 70-30 as we're using it for quickfire. 0 to 100. It's a relative channel. Any questions about relative channels? So I'm going to talk about little snippets like this, little vignettes of technicalities, and then hopefully tie it together here in a few minutes. I'm not talking about divergence right now. My example was about tops and bottoms. All right, no questions. Let's move on. I want to introduce the concept of waveology. Now, I know we've got newer traders in here, and this is going to be over your head for now. That's why I said I'm just introducing the concept. For the most part, waveology in terms of trading is the second thing that rules the chart, if not the primary. Fibonacci rules the chart. RSI stands for Relative Strength Index. And as I explained, it explains overbought and oversold conditions. Also, check out the IML Academy. Also, check out this really cool thing on the internet whose first name was Alta Vista, and in recent years has taken on the name Google. So waveology rules the charts, and unless you satisfy for finding one little tiny thing that you can trade and then you just repeat the hell out of that, and there's nothing wrong if you do that, by the way. I know a lot of traders can be very successful trading one little tiny thing, and they don't know jack squat about the rest of trading. But to be a master trader, to know a little bit more, and to have a little diversity in your understanding, you're going to want to learn waveology. Now, uneducated traders will often reference this by a name without knowing really what they're talking about, and they'll often talk about upper and lower time frames. Because that's where waveology shows up. For the most part, it gets its origin from Elliott wave and how Elliott wave is structured. I said Fibonacci rules the chart. Everything that happens on the chart is Fibonacci based. So I'm not going to go like teach an Elliott wave course in here tonight, but I do want to spend some time with waveology, so a little bit will make sense as we proceed along. if I look at a 60-minute chart, I may see what looks like a large move, let's say, going from bottom to top. In reality, that move is going to have some structure to it, and that structure will often look something like this. Sometimes you'll hear Chris call that market geometry, market structure. I answered the question. I'm sorry it's not to your satisfaction. RSI stands for Relative Strength Indicator. It is a way of measuring an overbought and oversold condition of price. So the wave, these are waves. Price moves in waves. And if I'm at the 60-minute level, that's what the wave looks like. Now, if I were to go to a 15-minute chart, the first thing that's going to happen is this wave, as we measure it from here to here, in terms of price won't change. If this is price 1.0 and this is price 1.50, when I go to a 15-minute chart, this wave, this, as I would call it, the white wave, which represents the 60-minute wave, will be the same, except down here it's going to be stretched out and it's going to be 4 times wider. And that's simply because we went from a 60-minute chart to a 15-minute chart. And in a 15-minute chart, there are 4 15-minute bars that will equal the 60-minute bar. So it's going to be 4 times wider on my 15-minute chart. It's going to look flatter because of that. Same price distance from bottom to top, it's going to be wider. But now you're going to see something else in terms of the waves, because while we can still see the kind of structure of this white wave, what we're going to see underneath that is structure at the 15-minute level, which would look something like this. So let me ask you a question with that. Does the end of a 15-minute wave mean it's the end of the 60-minute wave? No. Does the end of another 15-minute wave mark the end of a 60-minute wave? No. Does the end of this 15-minute wave mark the end of the 60-minute wave? Yes. No. No. Yes. Because the two coincide. They actually converge right there. So in terms of Elliott wave, we have a series of waves that exhaust at exactly the same point. One lower level wave, the next wave up, the next wave up, and that's when we have a wave termination and a reversal. But the 15-minute waves are not the end of the 60-minute wave. Boom up, boom down, boom up, boom down, boom up, and then coming down. So what that means is, if we're tracking tops and bottoms of a 15-minute wave, it's not the same as tops and bottoms of the 60-minute wave. Well, the 15-minute wave is inside the white wave, which I've painted as the 60-minute wave. The red wave might be a 4-hour, 8-hour wave. And so we have the white wave doing a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the top. And then for each of the white tops, we have a 15-minute wave going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then guess what's inside the 15-minute wave? A 1-minute wave. And what do you think it's going to do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My pen's. Oh. Inside that 15-minute wave, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the 5-minute level or 3-minute level. It scales up and it scales down. Now I know this is a little abstract for some of you. That's okay. I said I just want to introduce the concept. I didn't say you have to master this. I didn't say we were trading anything here. I just want you to get to understand that waveology is going to dictate your understanding of price movement. All right, so let's talk about something with that. I'm put on the chart. I'm going to put a chart up here. Well, I hope to. There we go. If I were to say, I want you to draw channels that comprise the activity on this chart, hopefully most of you would see it like this. Don't worry about my pinpoint accuracy. I'm just trying to make a point. Anybody disagree that that doesn't represent the channels on the chart? Or better said, no double negatives. Does everybody agree that that's pretty much defining the channels? Okay, so now listen up. I got to take a time out, and I got to put a little disclaimer here. I'm teaching you what I know about trading from 14 years of trading, with heavy research, with heavy studying. I'm not going to use that to mean I'm always absolutely right. I remain with an open mind. But I'll tell you this, you'll know something about me if you haven't already. I generally talk about something only because I know it. See, I've grown past separating self from ego. There's plenty things I don't know, and I will step right up and tell you. A good example would be when the web analyzer was given to me to be a beta tester for. One of the default indicators on it is DPO. And I'm like, what the heck's DPO? I've never seen it in 14 years. DPO is a detrending indicator. So I had to go study it because I didn't know what it was. Had to go research it. Spent a lot of time on it. I would not still give a lecture on DPO. I have a pretty good understanding what it is, but I've not traded with it. I'm not going to speak about something I haven't traded. So I'm teaching you waveology here. I want you to understand waveology, and this has to make sense to you, and it may cause some conflict because this may not agree with what others may think. But I prefer to show you the science and then let you decide. So we've agreed, and again, these are rough. I'm not trying to make these tradable channels. I just, we have uptrends, we have downtrends, we have sideways trends, called ranging. So I just want you to see that on this chart, we essentially have 4 trends. An uptrend, a downtrend, an uptrend, and a downtrend. And I think, without too much problem, you can identify when the trends turn over. In other words, this was a reversal point at the top. As I have the chart here, there may be more data to the left and right, but just as I have the chart here, the downtrend ended here, and then it became an uptrend. Here, the uptrend ended, and it became a downtrend. Somewhere down here, we ended a downtrend, and we started an uptrend. And somewhere up here, we ended the uptrend, and we started the downtrend. So I'm going to ask you a simple question. Now, does that make sense? How we have the trends reverse at those red dots, essentially? Are we cool with that? So, if I'm going to talk about this point right here being a trend reversal point, what am I really talking about? I'm talking about the channel, the trend channel, as identified by this. I'm just teaching, guys, no trick questions. We're talking about that white channel. Now, as we leave this top, and we head down, how are we going to know when we're at the bottom and it's headed up? inside this channel, inside the white channel, and I'll make it a little bit more succinct because I'll actually just isolate that channel. Didn't mean to cut out that wick there. So we've got a channel well, there's some answers there that are somewhat insightful. Somebody says we won't. Let's say I were to tell you that I had this is a 240 chart. What if I were to tell you I had an 8-hour chart who had a Fibonacci of 38.2% right there? Well, let's look at my chart. Let's not guess things off my chart. Yeah, harmonic wave convergence was help us, but let's just stick with what we got on the chart. There's a major support line. Price is working its way down to that major support line. At the time of the major support line, we obviously can see, I don't know what to use because nothing shows up here except red and white. We can see here's my price, and here's my MACD. Who's with me? Does that make sense? We have a channel, and as I go from inside that channel, as I go from low to low to low to low to low to low, I can see several areas of divergence each and every time. And then when I finally get to the bottom, if I want to measure the big one, I can. All right. So let me ask a simple question. And here comes the punchline. If we see in this channel, which is now heading down, and I want to know when this channel ends and when it reverses, and I look at price coming down, and I could do a divergence measure. What in the hell does this point here have to do with determining this reversal? Somebody please explain that to me. It's a totally different channel. It's a totally different trend. It has nothing to do with the question I have about when do I know this channel reverses. Has nothing to do with fib levels, guys. You're not listening to what I'm saying. We were trying to find this channel's endpoint and reversal point. The channel highlighted in white, because that's a down channel. And we want to know the reversal point so we can make some pips going this way. We want to find this point right here. If it's hitting on a Fibo line, i.e. we have some form of support and resistance at that point to help us know that it wasn't this one and it wasn't this one. It's most likely going to be this one. If I want to use divergence, I need to measure inside this channel. Why would I look outside that channel? Oh my Lord. Y'all are putting out things just to put something out. I asked a very simple question. You said that the channels I drew were the correct channels. And we know we want to find the end of that channel so we could get the reversal point. I don't need to be measuring anything in any other channels. I need to know that this point, point 2, is more oversold than point 1 was. And I need to know that point 3 here is more oversold than point 2. And so on down the line, to where in this channel, this is the most oversold point. And when that oversold point happens to be on a line, and within that channel I get divergence, that is my sign of a reversal. And if that's the case, if I'm trying to figure out in this channel where the reversal is, what do I care about this over here? Nobody's being singled out and nobody gets it wrong. Nobody is being singled out. And I'll tell you what, if you believe you're being singled out, then I'll come back to where I started. Put on your big boy pants. Let your ego go. But see, you can't. This is the proverbial walk you down the path. Hey, that looks just like a duck, Steve. Oh, let me put it in a pond. Oh, it swims just like a duck, Steve. Quack, quack, quack. Oh, it sounds just like a duck, Steve. What do you guys think it is? A lion? A bear? Oh, you think it's a duck. Right conclusion. If we're going to measure divergence, because divergence signals a reversal, it needs to be in the channel that we're trading. Oh, my Lord. This is a MACD. Well, I'll say it this way. I've taught it. Those of you that took pictures or watched the recording, maybe you'll get it. Jerry, have you watched the quickfire video? Okay. So, I don't understand that I can only think of RSI. We measure divergence. I don't know about doing it a third time. No, not to the rest of the lower lows. To the rest of the lower lows in that channel. The rest of the lower lows in that channel, which is why this point over here is not relevant to anything. How overbought or oversold or whatever that point is has nothing to do with this being a reversal point in this channel. Can we always measure divergence? No. Do we always need divergence? No. In quickfire, we have 3 criteria. Does it hit the Bollinger Band or penetrate it after we validate that it hits the green line? Does it hit the Bollinger Band? Does the RSI, in this case at the D, under 30? So we have an oversold situation. And do we have divergence? Well, if the Bollinger Band is hit and RSI is under 30, we don't need divergence. So some of you are going to have to learn divergence. That's what I'm trying to teach you tonight. And if you can't, or you don't know it yet, that doesn't mean you can't trade. It means you need to find scans that have the Bollinger hit and RSI under 30 in this situation. If it happens to be a scan such as a shark that has a PRZ and 2 lines, then you need 3 out of 3 and you do need to understand divergence. If you don't understand divergence, then you're just not going to be able to take those trades right now, and that's okay. So all I did was teach you tonight that if we were going to do the same thing, that was a 4-hour chart, if we were going to do the same thing here on this chart and put channels on this chart, we have a channel here, and we have a channel here. And we have a channel here, roughly, and we have a channel here. And therefore, if I want to know where this reversal point is, I need to compare its oversold factor or its divergence factor relative to this channel. This has nothing to do with it. Just so you know. It is 1, 2, 3 channels removed. Yes, that's correct. Bollinger, the deeper the better. Gatterson, you're going to have to go to the IML Academy and look up divergence. Look at some of Christopher Terry's harmonic scan teachings for divergence. You can watch the Charlie Delta quickfire video that is in the pin post of our Facebook group. In a channel like this that's so steep, it's going to be really hard to measure divergence. First of all, in a down channel, we're looking at bottoms. And really, the only relative bottoms we have in here to measure are like here, maybe here, and here. We don't have a whole lot to measure in terms of bottoms. And everything in that run would not give us divergence anyway. Which is why when looking here, we get a misread. Because I would say, oh, somewhere over here, I'm measuring, I don't know, maybe like that. But these are not good. There's way too many ups and downs because we're measuring, these are meant for the channel that you're in. They're not to measure against multiple channels in opposite directions. It's a little bit like standing out on your front porch and sticking your finger into the air to feel the temperature and then trying to project what the temperature is at 40,000 feet in the atmosphere. No, this has nothing to do with the channel going down to D. I'm just going to say it one last time. I don't care. I don't care. It's not where this is measured from here to here is at a higher level. When you're looking at a wave that is in the same channel. So let me keep the scan on here and show you that so once and for all you understand it. Let me go up to a 4-hour chart. Trouble is, it's so small. On this 4-hour chart, I have a channel. Here is my channel. In terms of that channel, I would measure the bottoms to see if they're overbought or oversold. It's also where I would look for divergence. So I would be comparing that and comparing that and comparing that and comparing that and comparing that. So in that sense, that is when I would go X to D. Because I'm trying to find the bottom of that channel. You can't mix and match time frames. You can't mix and match channels. If I'm trying to measure, the same reason here that I made that point. If I'm trying to find here, where is the bottom of this channel, and I'm going to use divergence to help me identify it, what do I care about some point over here? That is the start of an up channel. It means nothing. The weight on this in terms of relative strength, in terms of the MACD reading, has nothing, this point here has nothing to do with any of these points in here. These are measured inside this channel. Why would I go here? Why would I care what the relative strength is of that? The relative strength here is oversold in terms of this channel. This point here is oversold in terms of this channel. The channel is going to reverse here. It's going to come down. This is oversold, overbought. This is oversold in terms of this channel. It's going to reverse up. Get all the way to the top. This is overbought in this channel. So all my measures for divergence need to be in this channel if I'm trying to find who is the most overbought in this channel. Some point 3 channels over here has nothing to do with this point. This point has nothing to do with these points over here. No, you can't measure it from... Yes, it would be a C to D move. That's the channel. As I said, this isn't a good one to measure because it's just a steep channel, and that's going to happen to you. You have nothing to measure here. Very tight. It's very tight. If I blow it up as much as I can, and I try and spread it out as much as I can, the only thing I could do is say inside this channel, price is going down, but guess what? So is my divergence. Yeah, it's only inside a channel. I mean, just think about it. I mean, it's what. Again, if you want to go up in time frames, that's okay. Because this is all part of a bigger channel that kind of runs like this. Now I would measure from here to here if I'm measuring 4-hour divergence in this channel. But at this close in level, I'm not. So I only use X in an emergency. When I really can't find it here. And I have to have it. Look, if my Bollinger Band is breached and my RSI up here, is below 30, I don't even need divergence. I don't even waste time measuring. I don't even look for it. Why? Are you not going to take the trade because you have Bollinger Band hit and RSI is below 30, but you don't have divergence? You can do that. You can have a superset of criteria. But let me back you up to something, and we'll end on this subject. We'll end this subject here. For that D to hit the entry line, that is all that was done for the basics of those 3 studies. Price hit the entry line and bounced. From that point, 89 on average, 0.33% of the time, that trade went at least 15%. No RSI overbought, oversold. No MACD, no divergence, no Bollinger Bands. When price hit the D and bounced, the trade was valid, and 89.33% of the time it went at least 15%, which means if this channel is at least whatever the number is, 80 gives you 12. If it's 80, 15% is going to give you 12 pips. 2 to get in, and there's your 10 in the bank, excluding spread. Those studies didn't have anything. Those studies weren't, quickfire was there. The times it failed because it didn't get to 15% and now it went deeper, well, that's a failed scan. So all you're getting literally in quickfire with Bollinger Bands and RSIs and MACDs as a little candy coating on your psychology. Hope that makes sense. But please don't get all discombobulated on divergence. Most of the trades, you're not going to need them. And there's enough scans, that you can throw a CD fork on, that even if you totally miss the scan trade, you're going to get 2, maybe 3 trades with the CD XA combination. All right, one other problem with divergence, and not so much divergence, one other problem with indicators is that in real time, they're accurate. In history, they're not. Which is why backtesting is ridiculous. You want to forward test anything, don't ever worry about backtesting. You want to forward test it live. Now, to understand that, I've got a chart. And what you see on this chart is quickfire is in our Facebook group, which is iMarkets Live Scans, Forks, and Fibos, in the pin post. So what we have here is a 15-minute chart. And why I bring this up is because I see this a lot. This is the latest pattern that Carney introduced. It's called the bow tie. So no, I just did two. I did the original quickfire video and then the video the video, the divergence video to follow up with it. So there's only two. QF CD, quickfire Charlie Delta. So what you're going to see sometimes is this. And then what makes it even more of a challenge is when you have this. So now you've got an imbalance because this is the closed value for that candle. This is the closed value for that candle. And what that means in real time, when I have an indicator down here, what happens with this candle, as it had pushed all the way down to the X, my indicator value went way down there. As that candle then retreats back up, in real time, you see this indicator pull back into itself. So at the time that candle finally closes, that's where the indicator now reads. It's not showing down where it was when the wick was there. So it was down here when the wick, oh man. It was way down there when the wick was down here. But as the wick pulled back up and closed, the indicator then moves up. I'm about to scream here. So the indicator moves up. Does that make sense? Do you understand that? Over here, wherever the indicator is reading now is where it was when the candle was there, because that's a closed candle. i.e., the indicator plots what? Closed values. The indicator, as a standard indicator as you would see it, does not present the low value of this candle. It presents the closed value of the candle. It does not present the closed value of this candle or the low value of this candle. It presents the closed value of this candle. Well, guess what? When you're doing divergence, it makes a whole big difference as to whether you're measuring from there than if you're measuring from down here, which is where it actually was at the tip of the candle. What? So you're going to see in the event that price went up, as I drew this magical bow tie pattern, we have price going up, and if you're trading the closed value of this candle, it's going to make it look like you have divergence because that's where the indicator is now. In reality, at the bottom of the wick, there's my line to measure divergence with, the deepest penetration price made, now I don't see divergence. Uh-oh. So I've seen plenty of times there be calls when we're measuring from this point to this point across the entire span of the pattern where somebody says, oh, this is divergent, and it's not. And likewise, the other situation occurs where nobody sees divergent, but it really is. Back to my chart. We've got price, and I put 3 MACDs on here. This is my closed MACD, the default. It's going to be the only thing you get on the web scanner. And as you can see, as I format each one of these, see how it says inputs on close. The second MACD is on the high. And the third MACD is on the low. Now, sometimes these are all going to look the same. Let's look at this big long wick right here. In the first category, in the first MACD, here's where the closed value reads. Look at the right, 0.0007. That's the value for the MACD on that candle when I use the default of closed. Let's drop to the bottom since this is the candle coming down. Let's do a MACD based on the low on the same candle, and instead of 0007, here we are 0017. Different reading. And you can see by looking at the two, they're different. So if we're measuring divergence off this, it's not going to be the same as if we measure divergence off this. You can see the physical dive is much deeper. Ooh. But everybody just measures it off close. Well, not really. Professional traders don't. It's a faulty reading for all the reasons I explained. See, when this candle was pushing down and I'm using lows to capture it, this histogram goes much deeper. That represents the deepest penetration of that candle. That is where you would measure divergence. Not on the closed value, which represents this part of the candle, or in the case of a blue wick, it's up here somewhere. Can't even see it. Mixed up in here somewhere. You're using that value, which is right here. So you can't mix and match. If you're going to use the closed value for MACD, you best be using the closed value for the candle. But if you see that, look at the difference. So if I'm measuring price, let's just say to this point, one of them is going to have an upward slope, the other one's going to have a downward slope. Which one's right? Well, in close to close, this one's right. I can't use low here and closed here. Wicks will give you problems. Now look, you take a wick like, that's not too bad, like that, you're not going to have that much, it's going to be different, but not that much different. It's the bigger wicks. But let me tell you, I've seen a lot of these totally across the pattern measurements with big wicks like that. And I've looked at it and the reads are totally incorrect. So I'm just pointing that out. Do what you want to do. Yeah, dilly-dilly. Exactly. So I'm here to teach you to be a master trader. I'm going to total transparency. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything just to make it look good for you. I'm going to tell you the way it is. You get to choose what you want to do. But this is a perfect representation. This is a live chart. You can see me scroll across it. This is not a screenshot. This is a live chart. And I'm showing you the difference between closed, high, and low on the MACD, and on a big wick, how they are different readings as to whether you're using closed or low. Questions? You guys might not like it, but you're going to get the real deal in this room. You just have to put up with me in the process. Yeah, my evil laugh. All right, one last thing I'll talk about, and this is kind of, yeah, you're going to measure at the high side. You're going to use the high channel for the high wicks. And again, it's really going to have to be a bigger wick to have much of a representation. But as I said, I've seen plenty. When you go across to, I already erased it. But I've seen plenty of times, and it's it's because that's a significant swing low, and very often price goes rushing to check it out, and so very often you'll see that have that red candle. And again, these are way too big, but bottom line is, at some point that last candle stretches way down to make the tag, and then it pulls way back up. And that's why going all the way over there very often is a bad thing to do, because not only is it not part of the channel you're in, you're getting a bad read on it when it has a big wick. Andre, you will get a more correct read off the MACD value if you use high for high and low for low, because you're getting the actual true measurement. I mean, I'll reduce it to something simple. If I give you, or I put 11 oranges on a table and 7 apples, and I say, how many oranges do you have? The correct answer would be 11. You wouldn't add the apples to it. You wouldn't subtract the apples from it. That's where the expression apples and oranges, right? Apples to apples, oranges to oranges. We can't measure highs for the price and then measure closed for the indicator. I mean, think about it. That's just, it's absurd. If you're measuring bottoms, it's best to use low. If you're measuring tops, it's best to use highs. It's all about, am I chasing a D at the bottom or am I chasing a D at the top? If I'm chasing a D at the top, I got to worry about top wicks, so I'm going to use the high on TradingView. If I'm chasing bottoms, I'm going to use the lows on the MACD because I'm chasing a low. I want to get the most extreme measure in each direction. And like I said, there is a school of body that will trade close values, but then they use the close value of the candle. They exclude the wicks. But when you have a big candle like that, like I said, and you're coming to some point over here, there's a difference between that line and that line. Uh, One may be pointing up, one may be pointing down, one may be flat, nothing to measure against, the other one may be pointing down. So, you know, which one am I going to use? What I see most often is people using the wick, but they're still using the closed values in their indicator, be it RSI, be it MACD, etc. And that's just mixing and matching. You can't measure a low against a closed indicator. Well, you're measuring you should measure the most recent points. Now, I want to come in here with my own theory here. If you go to the IML Academy, see, this is why some of you should go, okay, thank you, Steve, this is boring, I already know all this. Because you've already seen it in the Academy. Say you have a deep crab. So if you go to IML Academy, this is all what Michael did. That's why I said it was brilliant. He just did what nobody else did. You go to the IML Academy, scoot over to the right to harmonics, and when you do, there's a whole fleet of videos, and you go down and there's one called New. And in that New, Christopher Terry will teach you five Bollinger Bands. He'll teach you, instead of MACD, to make a 310 oscillator. And he'll measure divergence in here like that. And the only time, not that far, the only time he does consider going across the scan is when there's nothing in here to measure. So it's an emergency reality that he'll drop over here. But this is his first go-to right in here. Because I want to see that this point, the last point in this channel, is divergent compared to the previous last low in that channel. And so that's where he measures. All of that contained right here, taught by CT himself. So what Michael presents with Quickfire, what I've presented in Quickfire, is not anything new. Last thing, size of scans. And this is why things like RSI, they're relative, guys. And I saw this just, either today or yesterday. Now, as I draw that looks like the normal scan that I draw. The new butterfly pattern I was talking about. And the thing is, you have no idea of relative size of that scan as I've drawn it. But I've literally seen this. Oh, come on. Oh, it's going to fight me tooth and nail. And those were like 5 pip candles. I know you've seen them. If you've been on the charts long enough, you've seen those. Well, I really don't care if it hits the line. All that's saying is the Fibonacci worked out. And I really don't care that, my RSI is, in this case, overbought. There's nothing here to trade. This is, 15, 20 pips. This really belongs on a 5-minute scanner. So you want to make sure your scan is tradable. No, it's 15% of 15. I don't know. I can't do that math in my head. Maybe you guys can. 2, 7, 1, 5. .25 pips. So I'm guaranteed 90% this scan's going to go 2.25 pips. Really? You're going to take that trade? Too small. Don't worry about it. Move on. Next scan. Don't take small scans, guys. The math isn't there. I'm done. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll be in Facebook land. I will be having some Quickfire and Charlie Delta posting guidelines to help you and everybody else in the group. Nothing fancy, just simple stuff. Because we're kind of all over the board on that. It's hard on the admins when we have to try and figure out what's going on in the post. But other than that, touches don't need wicks. They're just much better touches. You can't tell it's going to leave a wick. So if you're talking about live real time, you can't tell. It's only in history, in looking back, that you can see touches with big wicks, and if they're to the pip, they're much better touches, because that touch is a rejection. It sends a scout out, and it says, no, 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 and so it throws it back. And so those rejections in the past mean it's a hard line, so you can count on it more in the future than if it's just a simple candle close on it and then turns around and moves backwards with a candle from there. All right, so look, we're doing good. I think you guys as a group are doing wonderful. Those of you who've started to post quick fires, it's great. Again, nobody's beating you up, but some of them are just, missing something. And if we correct that, remember, again, please excuse me. I don't have time to be diplomatic and polite and all, roses and candy and all that stuff. So most of my comments are going to be quick and fast. Hey, you're wrong way to measure divergence, and I move on. Okay, I'm not trying to beat anybody up. Don't see it that way. Just, hey, now you know what divergence should be. Now you know how to measure it. If you prefer to use RSI, I don't care. If you prefer to use stochastics, I don't care. For the most part, they should be the same reads in the same zone. And now you know where you should try and find divergence, first of all. And if you can't find it, if you don't even need it, don't bother spending the time. It's only when you have the 2-line patterns, right? I think my head's almost caught on fire. That's why it's called quick fire. So with that, I'll see you in Facebook land. And thank you for carving some time out to be here tonight. And as always, life can be short. So for those people you care and love, let them know you care and love them, please. I love you guys, and I care about you becoming master traders. I will see you in Facebook land.